The idea with this trip was to create the best backpacking experience in Europe's Alps, one of the most beautiful ranges in the world. To do this, the route combines the two most classic treks in the Alps, the Tour du Mont Blanc and the Walker's Haute Route, into a single continuous thru-hike. The resulting route is a 205-mile trek that crosses almost 20 mountain passes and features over 62,000 feet of elevation gain, and that traverses west to east from Mont Blanc in the Graian Alps, the tallest peak in Europe, to the Matterhorn in the Pennine Alps, perhaps the most iconic mountain in the world. In roughly 3 weeks of mountain travel, the route passes through 3 countries, Italy, France, and Switzerland, and explores the most magnificent collection of 4,000-meter or 13,000-foot plus peaks in Europe by fully traversing the 2 most impressive and tallest subranges that make up the central heart of the Alps at the intersection of France, Italy, and Switzerland. Besides witnessing Europe's best collection of alpine peaks, the route takes you beside breathtaking glaciers, vast wildflower meadows, roaming ibex, chamois, and marmots, and spectacular valleys and picturesque villages full of rich history, culture, and delicious food. Altogether, this route takes in all of the grandest that the Alps have to offer, making it one of the best backpacking experiences in Europe and the world. The first part of the route, the Tour du Mont Blanc, begins by making a circular, clockwise tour around the entire massif of Mont Blanc. 25 kilometers long and looming up over 12,000 feet above the valley floors on its French and Italian sides, this imposing and majestic wall of mountain is the 11th most topographically prominent in the whole world. The massif is a complete subrange in itself, containing 400 summits, 11 of which are over 4,000 meters, and over 40 glaciers intersected by 7 valleys, and splitting up the borders of France, Switzerland, and Italy. Mont Blanc itself stands at the center. Known as the monarch of the Alps, it is the tallest mountain in the main continent of Europe at 15,776 feet. The TMB Haute Route thru-hike begins its journey in Switzerland on the northeast side of the Mont Blanc Massif in the scenic lakeside village of Champex. The first stage out of Champex is a pleasant valley walk descending into the bed of the Swiss Val Ferret, then ascending toward the head of this charming pastoral valley through a series of alpine villages and hamlets which feature old timber chalets and hay barns. The very start of the stage in Champex features a vivid first glimpse of the start of the Pennine Alps, which will be ventured into in the second part of the route. And towards the end of the day in La Foulie, you get another memorable view, this time of the jagged ridges of Mont Dolent and the Tour Noir in the Mont Blanc Massif itself. The second stage crosses into Italy via the pass of Grand Col Ferret. From the col, you can scan the full length of the Italian side of the Mont Blanc range across Val Ferret and Val Veni all the way to Col de la Seigne, the French border which the TMB crosses on stage 5. Most impressive and closest at hand is the jagged ridge of the Grand Jorasses. The final stretch of the stage is a delightful balcony path that leads to Rifugio Bonatti and features constant views directly across the valley to the Grand Jorasses and down valley to Mont Blanc itself. On the third stage, from Rifugio Bonatti, the main TMB route rounds a spur beneath the Tête de la Tronche, then follows a magnificent balcony path along the flank of the Mont de la Saxe. The path enjoys ever-expanding views along the Brenva face of Mont Blanc, and the extraordinary spear-like Aiguille Noire coming to dominate the unfolding landscape before a steep descent to the lovely Italian town of Courmayeur. On the fourth stage, after ascending through forest out of Courmayeur, the TMB takes a high route above the small Val Veny, where, from Col Chez Croix to Lac Combal, a spectacular balcony path looks directly onto the wild-looking Italian side of the Mont Blanc Massif. The route is crowned at a spectacular panorama from a high point at the Mount Favre spur, looking directly across to Mont Blanc, the Aiguille Noire, and the massive ice field of the Glacier du Miage, one of the highlights of the entire trip. The stage finishes at Refugio Elisabetta, which enjoys magnificent sunsets and a commanding view down valley to the dramatic Aiguille Noire. The fifth stage begins by ascending to the Col de la Seigne at the Franco-Italian border, where it crosses into France. The view is a wonderful panorama looking back on the Italian side, and as you descend into the magnificent French Vallée des Glaciers, the views only get better. After reaching the valley floor at the picturesque village of Les Chapieux, the trail again ascends, reaching the cozy Refuge de la Croix du Bonhomme. The sixth stage is a shorter and easier downhill day. From the hut perched at the Col de la Croix, the TMB descends to the lower Col du Bonhomme, and from there descends into the valley below, walking through forest alongside the Bonne-Nantes River, before reaching the lovely town of Les Contamines. But before setting out from the Refuge de la Croix du Bonhomme, a short side trip to the small summit of the Tête Nord des Fours is highly recommended. From the hut, the peak is easily reached within an hour going over gently rolling hillside. The summit of Tête Nord des Fours is the highest point reached anywhere on the TMB. The seventh stage features more pleasant valley walking filled with numerous pastoral alpine villages. From Les Contamines, it passes through the scenic villages of Tresse, La Gruvaz, Le Champel, and Bionnassay en route to the next pass, Col de Vosa. The view from Col de Vosa reveals a striking new panorama onto the French Vallée de l'Arve, home to Les Houches and Chamonix. Most striking of all is the line of serrated fins and needle points of the Chamonix Aiguille, French for needle, spreading out along the north side of the Mont Blanc Massif. The eighth stage, with its ascent to Le Brevant, arguably the most classic of all viewpoints of Mont Blanc, is an unforgettable highlight of the entire TMB. After a long, steep ascent through forest, you emerge at last to the Refuge de Belle Chatte, where you emerge to utterly breathtaking vistas of the Mont Blanc Massif directly in front of you. Almost every step of the rest of the way from Refuge de Belle Chatte to Le Brevant enjoys huge, unrivaled panoramas. The views along the descent to Refuge La Flégère are also exciting, gazing southeast across the Mer de Glace and the French side of the Grand Joras. ninth stage, from Refuge la Flégère, the route descends to Trient-le-Champ, including a clamber down a series of steep ladders. Then it ascends to the Aiguillette des Posettes along an exposed ridge, where the views are again another highlight of the trip. From the small summit of the Aiguillette des Posettes, the route then traverses to the Col de Balme. The panoramas encountered are yet another highlight of the tour, for not only does it encompass the Chamonix Aiguille and Mont Blanc, but also includes the rusty red chain of the Aiguille Rouge. At Col de Balme, you are on the Franco-Swiss border, where you descend down to the Swiss village of Trient. 10th and final stage ascends to Col de la Fourclaz, and from there to Alpe Bovine, where it reveals surprising views of the Rhône Valley before descending towards Champex, where the TMB finishes. From here, you leave Mont Blanc behind, and the second part of the Thru-hike continues on the Walker's Haute Route through the heart of the Pennine Alps in Switzerland.